Good evening and welcome to Eastern Region's first award celebration. My name is Lori Sherman and I have the pleasure of serving as your Eastern Region Vice President. I am so excited to be here to witness this historic celebration for Eastern Region. And because tonight is a night of celebration, we encourage you, especially the younger people in the audience, to share their memories of tonight on our social media by using hashtag EasternPSEA. Promoting a family atmosphere was a goal we had when we became your region officers. Looking around this room, I see so many people who have been an integral part of our family. We understand the power that a family unit has. With the support of your family, you can accomplish anything you set out to do. We are blessed to have so many amazing members who inspire students on a daily basis. Tonight, we also see how our members have inspired their families. We will be honoring our members' families whose children are at the beginning of their journey to further their education in pursuit of their future career endeavors. We will continue our celebration by honoring our past through recognizing the accomplishments of a few of our union family members. Tonight's two award recipients are moving in different directions, both of which deserve recognition, but I can't give that away, who they are. The promise of a bright future is exciting to witness, but everyone needs inspiration. Tonight will be a combination of looking ahead to our promising future and celebrating the successes of current and past members who inspire young people. Who better to celebrate these accomplishments with than your family? It's now my pleasure to introduce our third representative, Tim Carney.
Thank you for coming, all parents, educators, friends, and scholarship winners. We come together to celebrate on this joyous occasion, recognizing the efforts of many to bring these gifted children to our attention. It is a night to celebrate success. It's also a night for gratitude and to recall, in humility, our sources of strength and inspiration. Scholars, this would be a great time to look across the table and say thank you to your friends and family who are here tonight. And then family and friends, this would be a good time to look over and tell your scholars how much joy they've brought to you. In researching this prayer, and I do research it, I looked into the spiritual aspect of education. The Puritans believed education was necessary to receive salvation. Harvard College was founded by John Harvard, a minister. Harvard was a religious school to train clergy. Yale was founded by 10 ministers. The first Noah Webster speller, opening sentence, "No man may put off the law of God." Of the first 108 colleges and universities founded in America, 106 were religious schools. The Quakers, who settled Philadelphia area, believed in educating the populace for salvation, and they established the first public schools. Please bow your heads. Divine Creator, true source of light and fountain of wisdom, put forth your brilliance upon my dense intellect. Dissipate the darkness which covers me. Grant me a penetrating mind to understand, a retentive memory, method and ease in learning, a lucidity to comprehend, an abundance grace in expressing myself. Guide the beginning of my work, direct its progress, and bring it to successful completion. You who are the true source of life and wisdom, and the principle on which everything depends, be so kind as to infuse my obscure intellect with a ray of your splendor that takes away the darkness of sin and ignorance. Amen. I'm going to introduce Jenna Broadhead for the pledge.
So we talk about inspiration, and I get to have someone here with me tonight. This is Juliana Giannoni, and our learning didn't necessarily occur in the classroom, but it occurred in hospital rooms and clinics, and we are partners in this path of being a warrior and surviving, correct? So she gets to come here tonight and do the Pledge of Allegiance for us, and she's really nervous, so I'm hoping everyone can help her out. So if everyone could.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready? Flag's there. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Say, please be seated.
Please be seated.
And I will turn it over to Elaine.
Good evening. At this time, I have the pleasure of introducing tonight's Master of Ceremonies. Over the years, many of you have had the opportunity to get to know this man in many different roles. Some of you know him as a fellow special education teacher, some as a past president of his local, some may know him as the current Schuylkill County president, and many of you here know him as our very own Eastern Region treasurer. But there's only one person in this room that knows him as their best friend, and that's me. Ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome for our Master of Ceremony, Mr. Wayne Smith.
That introduction cost me $20, just so you're aware. No, truthfully, first of all, I'd like to thank Matt Landrum and the Reading Castellairs for the music. If we can give them. Last time I was in this room, I think, for a presentation, I think it was our kickoff dinner, and we did a Hollywood theme, and it was, you know, a gala and everything. So for the last few days, I've been trying to do some research, and what was going to be the theme that I was going to do for tonight, and I was going to do the Oscars. I was going to compare us to the Oscars and Oscars over the years. And I did, seriously folks, I did about 20 minutes worth of research. No, it was me, Bob, not Elaine, I did it, okay? But then I remembered, you know what, this isn't about me. This is about 17, 18, 19-year-old kids. The last thing they want to do is hear me speak for 20 minutes. Friday night, we're done here at 8 o'clock. They're home by 9 o'clock, changed. They're out the door. You know, I may be too old to remember what that's like, because 9 o'clock, I'm in a pair of sweatpants, ready for bed. But so, as far as my speech, it's done and over with. You guys did it in. But I do have some introductions that I would really like to do, and I may throw in an Oscar reference now and then. First of all, I'd like to introduce our Eastern Region President, Mr. Brian Sanguinito. When I thought of an Oscar movie from him, I thought of the 2000 Oscar winner, Gladiator, and he would be our Russell Crowe. Okay? Then for our Vice President, Laurie Sherman, all right, I go back to 1982. And does anybody know what the winning film was in 1982? How many people were born in 1982? Okay, in 1982, I compare Laurie to the award-winning film Gandhi, because she's our peacemaker on our leadership team. Then, this one's fun. Then I have Tim Carney, our third rep, standing in the back. All right? Tim Carney is the 1988 winner. He's our Dustin Hoffman in Rain Man. All right? Seriously, this guy is quirky. You can have a conversation about one thing and you are like just totally blown away because you have no clue what he's talking about next. Okay? And then, as we said, we have Elaine Hindeleiter, our secretary. We have Jenna Broadhead, our parliamentarian, and myself, treasurer. My group, my movie didn't win the Academy Award. We won it for Best Supporting Actress in 2011. We're the help. If you ever, okay. So, That's where we come to there. Now I have also some dignitaries sitting over to our far left. 1972 award winner Marlon Brando, The Godfather. That's our field manager, Walt Wojcik. His right-hand man, 1970 winner. He even looks like this guy, George C. Scott. Patton in that's Bob Kreveling. Then we have the group of people that work so hard for us as a region and go out there and they fight the fight for us. And we have Corey Fetchow, we have Mark Lynn, we have Barry DeWitt. I compare them to Rocky. Now, think about this. One of our absent Uniserves isn't here, but he would have been a great Rocky, Steve Cholish. Think about how Steve talks. Like, I mean, that was the best pitcher in 1976. And then we are graced to have our staff attorney here, Jessica Sturwalt, and I'm going to compare her to the winner of the 1979 Best Female Actress. And that was Sally Field for the role she played in Norma Ray, which is a great movie. So Jessica, thank you for what you do. So while I'm talking about that too, I'm going to give a plug for Schuylkill Haven High School. That's the school I teach at. A former student of Elaine and I is appearing on Broadway right now with starring opposite Sally Field in the play The Glass Menagerie. She is the first handicapped woman to ever appear on Broadway. Her name is Maddie Ferris, and she suffers from the disease of MS. She's going to be, she was just had a little article in People magazine, I believe last month or the month before concerning her, but she's going to be one of People's most 25 beautiful people coming out. So you get a chance to go up there from Schuylkill Haven. And probably the most important person in the region that I could ever introduce, and that's Debbie Berniker. She is our staff associate. And Debbie, the movie I came up with you is the 1975 winner. Now I know there was a lot of people probably not born in 1975, but does anybody remember what 1975 Academy Award winner was? Debbie, how about this? One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. That has to signify your job pretty well. Also, we have a couple guests here from Student PSEA. We have Marie Hutchings, who is President-elect of Student PSEA. We have Julianne Lowenstein from Albright College. She is Student PSEA President. And Angela, I'm going to probably kill your name. Terzin? Terzin, you got it. All right. She is the Albright Vice President of Student PSEA. So, as I said, that's all about the Oscars and stuff like that, and in all reality, the Oscars are about fantasy and entertainment of the past year, and tonight's totally different. Tonight we're here to recognize 5 tremendous young men and women, and 2 slightly older recipients who have excelled both in academics, character, leadership, and tonight's your night. So we celebrate you, and we challenge you that you continue to lead us into the future and continue to be examples for our future generations. So I'd like you now to please join me in welcoming our recipients, our student recipients. From Berks County, we have Connor Oswald and his family. No. I'm just giving a little, not yet. Didn't want to throw you off. I'm winging this, Connor. Connor, I ditched my speech so we'd get out of here early, so I'm just winging now. From Carbon County, Elise Johnston. From Lehigh County, Landon Anoni. From Northampton County, Peyton Seiler. And from Schuylkill County, Abigail Brickler. And with that, I've spoken enough, so let's enjoy our meal and we'll pick back up in a little while. So enjoy, folks. I don't even know how to describe this fella. You know, he's indescribable. I first met him, I don't know how many years ago. He won't even remember this, but it was at Parkland High School, and he was presenting, and I went up and I said something to him, and he said the bathrooms are down at the right, and that wasn't my question. But, so it's nice to know that he heard me. Bob Kreveling is our region field director. He is supposedly retiring at the end of the summer. We've been hearing that for a while. You know, probably 3 years from now when I'm doing this again, he'll be our keynote speaker again. But we just don't know. Truly, he's a great man. He, for education, for unionism. He ticked me off like 2 seconds ago and told me he played golf today, and I didn't, haha, he said. So without further ado, I'm just going to introduce our keynote speaker, Bob Kreveling. Thank you.
Is this your phone timing me?
Yeah, 2 minutes.
Okay.
You got 2 minutes.
First of all, I would like to congratulate all the winners of this contest. And I'm going to tell you something. A lot of things in my life is because I shot off my big mouth. And I remember we were sitting in an exec meeting, and Brian came up with the great idea of having a scholarship for all 5 counties, and it was really good and going on. And I remember sitting there, and they said, well, who's going to judge the written part of this? And me thinking, you know what? I said, we're the perfect people to judge it, the staff. Because I figured we have about 15 applications. We had over 90. And let me tell you something. You who have won should feel very, very proud, because there were 90 outstanding written applications for these scholarships. And your parents should feel very proud of that. Now, one of the things, I'm a former educator. I've been in PSEA, this will be close to 21 years when I retire 8 years from now. No. I am going. Believe me. So, when we thought about this, and I lost my train of thought. That's terrible. I'm retired. Yeah, all right. There were 90 candidates. But one of the things about keynote speaking is this. I found out from sitting over there. Is no one really wants to hear you. And one of the things as a teacher, and I taught before the emphasis on testing. And what we have lost through this is the love of history, because it didn't count for the test. So I am going to ask our scholars a simple question. And don't be embarrassed if you don't know this. I'm going to ask you, who in history was Edward Everett? Any of our scholars, recipients? you should, hey, if you raise your hand, I'd have passed out. Besides my wife, is there anyone who knows who Edward Everett was? Mark Lynn.
He is the speaker who spoke before Abraham Lincoln gave his Gettysburg Address.
There you go. That was Mark Lynn. He bought me a drink because I gave him the answer. But Edward Everett was a renowned orator at the time of Lincoln. And when it came time to dedicate the cemetery at Gettysburg, they invited Edward Everett because he was a renowned orator. And Lincoln was invited as an afterthought because there was a Republican governor at that time of Pennsylvania, which was a new party. And they really didn't want Lincoln because he was extremely unpopular at the time. And Edward Everett went down there and spoke for 2 hours for the dedication of the cemetery. And Lincoln stood up next and delivered about a 2-minute oration known as the Gettysburg Address, which is the most famous speech, political speech probably ever given. And Everett looked at him and said, "You said what I wanted to say in 2 minutes, and it took me 2 hours." So, with Lincoln in mind, and by the way, this is the only comparison between Lincoln and myself. I will say this: the world will note nor long remember what we say here. And that's from the Gettysburg Address. And I can guarantee you that will be true after I'm done speaking. And when Brian asked me, and I was thinking, like, what do I want to say to a bunch of young kids who are deserving of these scholarships? And my only reference is to my own kids. And the advice that I remember, and my children are now in their 30s, things that I said to them when they were your age that they remembered. And the first one was this: know where fun ends and trouble begins. And I heard that as a young man when I was at the Harvard of State Schools, Millersville University. Our region president is also a graduate of Millersville University. And I always remember that because when I played football, and on Saturdays the coach used to say, "Know where fun ends and trouble begins." And I said that to the kids. You know, to this day, we go out now. My wife and I say we're going out. My son, who's now 34, says, "Hey, know where fun ends and trouble begins." And the other thing was something that I've done in leadership school in Gettysburg. And I think it's actually goes well here. And I'm going to read you a little story. It's called "The Mayonnaise Jar and 2 Cups of Coffee." A professor stood before his philosophy class and had some items in front of him. When the class began, he picked up a very large, empty mayonnaise jar and proceeded to fill it with golf balls. He then asked the students if the jar was full. They agreed it was. The professor then picked up a box of pebbles and poured them into the jar. He shook the jar lightly. The pebbles rolled into the open areas between the golf balls. He then asked the students again if the jar was full. They agreed it was. The professor next picked up a box of sand and poured it into the jar. Of course, the sand filled up everything else. He asked once more, "Is the jar full?" The students responded with a unanimous yes. The professor then produced 2 cups of coffee from under the table and poured the entire contents into the jar, effectively filling the empty space between the sand, and the students laughed. "Now," said the professor, "I want you to recognize what this jar represents. The golf balls, they are the important things. Your religion, your family, your education, your health, your friends, and your passions. Things that, if everything else in life was lost and only they remained, your life would still be full. The pebbles, they are the other things that matter, like your job on Sunday, your house and your possessions. The sand, that is everything else, the small stuff. If you put the sand in the jar first, there's no room for the pebbles or the golf balls. The same goes for life. If you spend all your time and all your energy on the small stuff, you will never, never have room for the things that are important to you. Pay attention to the things that are important to your happiness. Pay attention to your family. Pay attention to your health. Go out with your parents for dinner. Play another 18. There is always time to do the other things. Take care of the golf balls first. They are the things that matter. Set your priorities. The rest is just sand. One of the students raised his hand and said, "What does the coffee represent?" The professor smiled and said, "I'm glad you asked. Goes to show, so you know, no matter what or how full your life might seem, there's always room for a couple of cups of coffee." And I've read that for a long time. And I read that to my daughter and my kids when they were young. And I remember, I'm not known as the most patient person in the world. And one day I was sitting in traffic and I remember my daughter had to be small because she was in the back seat. I was Ubering it. And I was complaining about, my wife over there will testify, my impatience in traffic. And I remember complaining and so on. There's a little voice from the back. And my daughter said, "Dad, it's just sand." And I thought, oh my gosh, that had a big effect. Because most of the things in life, when you go through college and you recipients go on, focus on the golf balls and not the sand. And I want to end this. I want to end this. It wasn't Lincoln-esque, but it's good. I want to end this with one thing. With the scholarships you've received, I'm sure in 4 years, parents, 4 years, you will be graduating. And you will get a BA or a BS. I received a BS and have used it effectively my entire life. Then you want to go for an MA or hopefully a PhD. But dads and moms, once they get that BA, you head them to a JOB. And I want to also acknowledge Don Miles, who's here, for his wife Julia, who was my president in Easton, and how we loved Julia. And for you recipients, I want to wish you the best of luck. To their parents, you've done a great job. And to PSEA, thank you.
Thank you, Bob, and wow, that's, I mean, very good, yeah. What's that? No, I have other things to say, but I'll wait for later. You know, it's kind of like Bob said, we got to focus on the important things. Sometimes they get overlooked, and next thing you know, life's gone. Life passes us by. And that's why I think tonight's so important. I think tonight, recognizing these 5 students and our recipients for our 2 awards is so important. And I'm so appreciative of Matt and the Reading High School Castleers. Like I said, once again, you guys were just like, wow, you know, things we take for granted, but maybe things we'll remember for the rest of our lives. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Lori Sherman, who is going to introduce our first scholarship recipient from Berks County.
Connor, if you want to walk out for a while. It's my pleasure to introduce the award winner for Berks County, Connor Oswald. Connor is a senior at Hamburg Area High School. He is the son of Shauna Oswald, who is a teacher in the Kutztown School District. She teaches 4th grade there. Connor has been accepted to the University of Pittsburgh, where he intends to major in computer science. While in high school, Connor has been very active. He is the president of the United States Military Club, secretary of National Honor Society, and something we both share, we were both captains of the cross-country team in high school. So I was talking to him about that earlier. In addition, Connor has worked the past 2 summers for his high school as a full-time tech operator in a highly competitive position that was only awarded to 3 students. He also works part-time at a local State Farm branch. David Klein, history teacher at Hamburg, wrote this about Connor. Connor impressed me as a bright and engaged young man. Most impressive about Connor was his ability to maintain high academic standards while excelling outside of the classroom. Mary Elizabeth Eschbach, English teacher at Hamburg, wrote that Connor is noted for his particularly mature and principled character, as well as his humor and drive. Finally, Greg Amond wrote, Connor's honesty and integrity are the first qualities you notice when you spend any length of time with him. So at this time, I want to introduce the Berks County Award winner, Connor Oswald.
I would like to thank the Eastern Region PSEA for awarding me this scholarship. I am truly grateful for their assisting me with the economic burden that is a college education. As a student of a public school, I feel as though I benefited immensely from the possibilities I've been granted. At my high school, I was allowed to participate in a program where students help out in our technology department. I learned a lot about computers in my time helping out there, including the fact that I want to continue working with computers in the future. I'm especially grateful for having gained a practical knowledge of something that all people take advantage of, but most do not understand. If for some reason I were to actually choose a different path, the skills I have learned at my school would still be with me for the rest of my life. Also, during my time in the public education system, I have realized a deep-seated love of history. My history teacher for the past 2 years can be directly held responsible for this. He found a way to make history engaging and fun, and on account of this, I've taken to studying history, specifically American, outside of school. The public school system has also done much to offer varying viewpoints to me, rather than forcing me to be docile and accept the mindset that a private school would exact upon me. In regards to how public education has affected my family, it has sustained us entirely. My mother is a 4th grade teacher and has been able to financially support our family single-handedly. She has afforded my brother and me a very comfortable lifestyle, and for that I am very grateful. She has helped my brother through his college experience, although she might not be able to provide the exact same aid to me, as the college I plan on attending is more expensive than the one he is currently attending. It's still a large help. Not only has the public education system been very kind to my family financially, but it has also been the source of my mother's fulfillment. She has put every ounce of herself into being a fantastic teacher, and I think it really shows. The future generations will go through the public education system, and the way that they do it is being decided right now. The way things are looking, public education might actually be defunded pretty significantly in order that kids might go to a private school, and that might be based around what their parents want them to believe. This would be a crime against humanity because the public education system provides much more to students than just an education. Public schools facilitate the formation of important social skills. Students who attend private schools might only be exposed to people whose parents think like their own. As such, students who do not attend a public school are handicapped heavily both in terms of the types of people they will meet and the type of information they are presented with. Again, I'm extremely thankful for this scholarship and the various opportunities that have been provided to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And now, I'd like to introduce Lane Hindeleiter, who will introduce our Carbon County recipient.
I have the great pleasure of speaking on about Elise Johnson, who is the Carbon County recipient. Elise? Okay, this is a long list of accomplishments, so bear with me here. There was no way I was memorizing this one. Elise resides in Lehighton, and she is the daughter of Melissa Blocker and Paul Johnston. Elise's mother has been a member of PSEA for 20 years and is currently the head of the science department at Lehighton High School, where she teaches 10th grade biology and anatomy and physiology 1 and 2. That's mom, now on to daughter. Elise's school activities include varsity field hockey, where she is the defensive MVP and scholar athlete. She is part of the varsity men's tennis. the Interact Club, Student Council for 3 consecutive years, President National Honor Society, Science Olympiad, Annual Envirothon Science Team, the PALS Elementary Tutor. She's the founder of the Writers Club. And if that isn't enough, she has also been selected by the faculty that she attended the Hobie Leadership Conference. She's been selected by the Franklin Township Lions Club to attend a leadership conference as well. She was awarded the Bausch & Lomb Honorary Science Award and the United States Marine Corps Academic Achievement Award. She has volunteered with the Blue Mountain Health Nursing Home, and she's been part of the Lehigh Valley Health Network Teen Volunteer Program, a church volunteer, summer lunch program volunteer, and delivers Meals on Wheels has delivered Meals on Wheels to the elderly. Elise is just as active outside of school in that she has taken piano lessons for the past 10 years. And then in all her free time, she works as a cashier at the local grocery store, and she averages there about 10 to 15 hours a week during the school year. Her future plans include attending King's College as part of the 5-year Physician's Assistant program. So ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Miss Elise Johnston.
I'm a little choked up here, so I'm sorry. Thank you to the selection committee for selecting me. I'm very grateful for everything that you do. And also thank you to my parents and my mom and dad for always motivating me. I'm going to read to everyone the essay that I provided for the application. The prompt was why public education matters to me, my family, and the future. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Nelson Mandela's quote encapsulates the entire purpose of education. The future depends on what students learn today. Thankfully, public education prepares students for the real world, and it also allows students to understand how competitive the world is. As a student, public education has allowed me to interact with many different types of people. Unfortunately, private and charter schools only appeal to a certain type of group of people, whereas public schools have a broad spectrum of creative students. Overall, public schools better prepare students for the competitive world because they learn how to communicate efficiently with a variety of different people. My parents appreciate the public education system because they were active in the PTO programs. Unlike private schools, parents have a voice, and they are able to speak their opinion. My mother was a union representative for many years, as well as a Parents Club athletic official. Undoubtedly, she realizes how important it is to voice her opinion, and she finds it accurate that the magazine sent out by the PSEA is titled Voice. Moreover, public education allowed my mother to earn a master's degree in order to further her teaching career and be an advocate for public education. Future generations have the ability to advocate for change. Public education is being threatened by current election nominees. Fortunately, posterity can vote for candidates who promote public schools and programs. If public education ceases to exist or prosper, creativity and diversity within students will decrease. In the future, public schools will possess a diversified student population that excels in various types of professions and trades. Overall, public education is important to current and future populations. It encourages diversity and creativity, and it allows students and parents to have a voice. Unlike other education systems, public schools encourage opinions as well as differing learning abilities. Personally, I would never want to attend any other school besides a public one, because I enjoy being among peers that each have a different background. My parents are able to voice their opinions and incorporate their ideas on the PTO as well as other committees. The prosperity of the nation can urge election candidates to advocate for public schools. Assuredly, they will benefit from a public education and prove to the nation that private and charter schools are not beneficial or effective. Thank you, everyone.
And now I'd like to introduce our third rep, Tim Kearney, who is going to talk about our Lehigh County recipient. And once again, the Reading High School Castiliers. Thank you, guys. But Tim Kearney, please.
I'm doing my Lincoln 2 minutes. So first of all, I want to start by saying I was not a judge, because I have a lot of connections with Landon's family, and I found out afterwards when I read his application. First of all, I did find out that he's into memorabilia, so I did sign my invocation speech, and I did give that to him in case it becomes valuable. I do play softball with Landon's uncle. You are surrounded by greatness in your family, and you already know that.
Thank you.
I play softball with his uncle Greg, who's an Ace Penn administrator, and we call him Preacher. He's so motivating to our softball team, and funny. I knew your great, I worked with your great uncle Hank, and he was one of the most intelligent, smartest people that I knew. And I worked with your relative, your great uncle John Clark, who loved taking pictures, and I'm sure would be here taking pictures of you and would not be prouder. Could not be proud of you. I also know your dad, and I agree with you. In your application, you wrote down that he's a piece of work in a good way. I would agree with you, and it's surreal that you're standing here, because when your mom and dad were getting together, they were engaged. I actually worked with your dad, and we went to Perkins one night. One day at school, we had the staff out there up at MacArthur Road, and I actually came out and did a strip tease in the Cubby Bear mascot. I don't know if you know that. So, but your dad's, I'm not going to be invited to speak again. Your dad, though, seriously, for people that don't know, your dad is incredible. Helps out thousands of children in a camp. It's called Camp Compass Academy. Helps out thousands of children. I know he's really busy. My own daughter's outside. We're busy dads. But out of all the people that we help, and I'm sure I'm speaking for your dad, out of all the thousands of children that he's helped, you're the most important person in his life, and I'm sure he could not be prouder. It's amazing that I'm being able to present you, and congratulations again.
Mr. Sanguinito, Selection Committee, and other members of the PSEA, my family and I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for selecting me to receive this prestigious scholarship. For me, this scholarship is considered a valuable piece of the puzzle that will allow me to move forward with pursuing my college education in the business field. I never imagined I would be standing here in front of so many people telling my story. I went into freshman year not knowing what to expect and the challenges I would need to overcome. I had 2 life-changing surgeries within 2 years, with my stem cell knee surgery putting a hold on my life. Went from playing baseball for Parkland High School 7 days a week to sitting on the sofa the entire day. It took a toll on me, not physically, but emotionally. The thought of college wasn't necessarily on my mind at the time because of the emotional distress. I was forced to enroll in cyber school my junior year, and as a result, caused me to lose touch with my close friends and took me out of the classroom of some of my favorite teachers. However, I am grateful for the wonderful teachers in Parkland Area School District that went above and beyond expectations to check in on me and provide me support when needed. But all was not lost. I took the opportunity to feed my interest in music, more specifically music memorabilia, and as a result, I was able to network and make connections globally with artists such as Mick Fleetwood from Fleetwood Mac. So what does this mean? When faced with a challenge, we must take the negative and turn it into a positive and never give up hope that better things are in store for us. My lifelong goal of pursuing a career in business will begin in the fall of 2017. In conclusion, I would like to thank the selection committee for recognizing me with this scholarship. I would also like to congratulate and wish my fellow scholarship recipients all the best in their future endeavors. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to ask Rosalie Davis to come up and introduce our Northampton County recipient.
Hi. Most of you know me as a person who's always chasing you around, but I get to do this as something different. It's for me, very humbling as an elementary teacher to sit back and think, and I remember Peyton when he was much smaller, and that I didn't have to look up at him as his phys ed teacher when he was in elementary school. So it's very proud for me when I read through his application to hear how he was in cross country, how he was in track and field, how he started table tennis at Liberty and was the president and ran the club, as well as knowing he was a good student in elementary, that it continued through middle school and high school. In high school, he found the love for science, and it continued through. He's won numerous awards, including, I want to brought this up so I didn't forget, the PA Junior Academy of Science First Place Award. Yay. Very pleased to say that. Peyton is looking to go to school for engineering, and at this point is leaning towards Franklin and Marshall. So I know someone's graduating from there in the same field, so good job. I'm not going to take up much time, but I would like to introduce Northampton Scholarship winner, Peyton Sales.
I'd like to start off by thanking the PSEA for this prestigious award, and I know this award will help me further my education. I'd like to read the essay that I submitted for this award. When I was young, my mom took me to museums. They were interesting for a short time. The paintings and sculptures were pretty, but they captivated my interest only briefly because they held no meaning for me. This past year, I attended an art history course. By learning about the symbolism hidden in the artwork and the history around it, the museum that used to bore me became a place of ceaseless wonder. If one course in art history can open a new world to me, what could a lifetime of education do? I come from a single-parent home. My mom raised me. She is the descendant of an immigrant family with little education. Her father told her that she shouldn't waste any time or money on education because she is a woman, so she wouldn't be anything but a secretary. She was the first person in her lineage to earn a bachelor's degree and then went on to earn her master's degree in molecular biology. She spends her life educating teens in public high school, hoping to inspire them to pursue their passions regardless of gender or color. As a son of an educator, I am blessed that she has imparted to me the importance of an education and the love of learning. Through education, you not only expand opportunities available to you, but develop an appreciation of the natural world. An appreciation of the natural world that is a byproduct of an education, as well as the opportunities made available through education, is essential to our society and our future. Public education is integral in our society and in my life specifically because it provides an education for those who, like me, would otherwise not be afforded one. Education in our modern society is paramount to success. Without education, it is impossible to progress in life. A public education system is essential to any society because it provides the society with its most important resource: able, intelligent individuals. To expound upon this idea, I would like to reference the adage, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. To have a society that is able to care for itself, the members of that society need to be taught to fish. Fishing may be expanded to mean read, write, explore, sing, dance, build, etc. Public education is the means by which individuals are provided the opportunity to obtain the knowledge and skills to enable them to care for themselves and the planet, as well as be productive members of society. The public education system has been teaching the skills and attributes necessary for its students to become productive citizens for many generations. At this juncture in time, public educations need to do even more than that. Today, more than ever before, in the age of information and communication, our future is reliant upon public education to teach critical thinking skills and problem solving to tackle the monumental and global problems facing our society and that of generations to come. In an era when we as a people seem to be teetering on a precipice overlooking a future of global climate change, political discontent, energy crisis, and imminent warfare, public education needs to teach more than reading and writing. It needs to teach the skills required to overcome these challenges so that we may impart to our children a future worth living. As a proud result of the public education system, I can attest to the fact that the public education system is up to the task before it. The Bethlehem Area School District has afforded me opportunities that I would otherwise never have had. As a graduating senior, I have scored among the top 98% on the National Standardized Test, and I am prepared for the future at a college of my choice, and I consider myself blessed to have had the opportunities afforded to me by the BASD. My mother teaches in the district, and that has helped me to shape me into the young man I am today. It is this public education system that will continue to shape young men and women like me to tackle the global problems facing society today. It is for these reasons that public education matters to me and my family, and thank you.
At this time, I'd like to introduce Melanie Scuba, who will present the award and scholarship to the Schuylkill County recipient.
Thank you. It's so nice to see y'all here. And I know Wayne spent a lot of time thinking about the Academy Award references, and I'd like to say that mine is 16 candles. And in my case, it's 16 times 3, but I'm still waiting for Jake. Focused, reasoned, logical, and determined. These are the words that our teachers at Tamaqua Area High School say about Abby Brickler. She is our first scholarship winner for Eastern Region, and we could not be prouder. There's an old adage about not making judgments about a person until you've walked a mile in their shoes, and I'm here to tell you that old cliche holds true. From Abby's grade point average, there are several assumptions that might be made, but I'm a language arts teacher, and if you can't prove your assumptions, I will mark them wrong. Assumption number 1, well, with a grade point of 100.4246, she does nothing but study. Well, incorrect. She has a multitude of friends. She has a spirit of volunteerism, which includes working with a youth group and coaching swimmers. She was a member of a swim relay team that broke school records, and she participates in many, many causes, including MS causes, and participating in a 5K for MS, which hits home for her as well. Assumption number 2, well, she must be pushed so hard at home that her parents only allow her to study. Incorrect. Her mother is Susan Brickler, a guidance counselor at the middle school who cares tremendously about every student that goes through that school. And her father, Matt, is one of the most caring people I've ever met. I've worked with Susan for many years, and I've known her father for the same length of time, and they are devoted to her and her studies, but also to her happiness. They are proof that love can mean high expectations as well as support at every turn. And thanks to their support, she is a Hugh O'Brien representative, scholar athlete, and was a people-to-people ambassador who traveled to Australia. Assumption number 3, well, life must be so easy for her, no challenges at all. Incorrect. There have been challenges and struggles every day, and I'm here to tell you it's not my story to tell, and I will not divulge details, but some of those struggles have dealt with life and death, and they could have made a weaker soul crumble. Abby rose to the top, and she is continuing to rise to the top. Abby is a product of public education, and she is proud to be a product of education, as you will hear. All aspects of public education, not just the tested areas. Certainly, she is a member of various honor societies in subject areas such as math and language arts and science and all of them. But it doesn't end there. In public education, she is also a member of the band and Tri-M and school magazines and physics and student government, and I could go on, but you have the idea. She is an all-around public school success, and I am privileged to introduce our first ever Eastern Region Scholarship winner. And I will end with Wayne's theme. I believe the first movie that ever won the Academy Award was Wings. And I say that's appropriate because she is going to fly so high and soar so high. We are so proud of her. I give you Abigail Brickler.
First of all, I would like to thank the association for this scholarship. I'm looking forward to continuing my education at Dickinson College, and your generosity will support me in reaching that goal. I would also like to thank my teachers for instilling in me the mindset that I can be the change I want to see in the world by simply asking myself the question, why not me? And lastly, my parents for their unending love, encouragement, and guidance. I wouldn't be here without you, and I certainly would not be the person I am today without you. And I'd also like to share the essay I submitted. I have grown up through the public school system. It is what I know. My friends and I began kindergarten in 2004 at the quaint, rural West Penn Elementary School, and will soon receive our diplomas from Tamaqua Area Senior High School in 2017. Not once throughout my educational career did I question whether or not I was good enough, or if my fostered intelligence would take me far enough, and I owe that to my public education, and especially to many of the teachers whom I have grown extremely close to. One of the most important lessons any student can acquire is respect, and I believe that I have learned to respect the public school system and understand why some decisions are made on my behalf.
In all truthfulness, I think I have been offered and been able to take advantage of many more opportunities because of the nature and characteristics of my schooling, and I will be forever grateful for that. As I embark on a new journey into the realm of college and the real world, I feel more than prepared to accept challenges with a sense of determination that has been building within me for the past 13 years. One of the major reasons, why public education is so important to me is because it is so important to my family. My mother has been employed by the public education system for 29 years and continues to work as a guidance counselor at the Tamaqua Middle School. Unfortunately, because my dad suffers from multiple sclerosis disease, he's unable to work as an air traffic controller anymore, meaning my mom's salary is our main source of income. Without public schools, my family would not be able to successfully function the way it does at this point in time. More meaningfully, however, the system provides opportunities for my mom and I to expand our social skills and develop into well-rounded citizens, which is reflected in our wider family. She is able to take exclusive classes to continue her education and cultivate new credentials and relationships. I could say the same. We ask ourselves what public education means to future generations of school children and school employees. Yet, public education is the future of children and employees alike. In a society so focused on impatience and solitariness, I see public schools as a form of grounding, a way in which children can be exposed to and prepared for reality, while still being raised in a safe environment that promotes positive social connections and a necessary education. So much promising potential is just waiting for future students to come and take advantage of. Therefore, with all of the new changes in governmental policies, there can be no question about the effectiveness and solid knowledge base that is developed through the public education system. Future generations must receive the same chances that I did, so that they too may feel confident, ready to enter the world outside of general schooling, with the wisdom and proficiency they need to pursue whatever it is that satisfies their burning passions. Thank you.
I'm not sure about a lot of you folks out there, but from being in the classroom 32 plus years, this is what it's all about as a teacher. When we can get together and we can honor students. I mean, you hear a lot of moaning and groaning about things in education and things, but tonight makes it all right. So I would like to ask our 5 recipients, Connor, Elise, Landon, Peyton, and Abigail, to please stand as we acknowledge you one more time tonight. You guys are fantastic. That's all I can say. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce my friend and our Eastern Region parliamentarian for the presentation of the Julia B. Miles Champion for Children's Award, Ms. Jenna Broadhead.
I'm not handling the technology tonight. I usually am the one doing this part, so. So I am an elementary teacher, and when I can't make sense of the world, I look for definitions to help me make sense of it. So the title of this award is the Champion for Children Award. And a champion is a person, a noun, who fights for a cause or on behalf of someone else. And Julia was absolutely a champion, not only for public education, but she was also a champion for her family and a champion for cancer survivors. So when I was diagnosed in 2013 with my own cancer battle. I didn't know what to do. And Julia was my champion. She taught me how to fight and how to do it with class and style. And Julia didn't complain. She would be at events and you knew she wasn't feeling her Julia self, but she was here with a smile on her face. What I learned from Julia about fighting, I was able to then share with Juliana. So it's our job to keep that fight going. Julia always provided solid advice. She was always available, even when Dawn didn't always like her being available, but she was always available for anything that any one of us needed. And I'm looking at these people who are my tribe, my family, and who we get through things together. So I am extremely honored to be presenting this Julia Miles Champion for Children Award. And I'm a little nervous about presenting it to the recipient. But before I do that, I'd like to acknowledge Don Miles, Julia's husband, who is here with us tonight. And there's a little piece of Julia in all of our hearts. So the recipient of this award is someone who has spent a lifetime not only being a champion for children in public education, but being a champion for those who teach and provide education to people in public education. And it's fitting that Brian is standing to my right, because when our recipient began, Brian was in his classroom. So Mr. Krevling, could you please come up here for a moment? So Bob has taught me as well, and Julia, about the fight of being a public education teacher as well as being a local president. And it's really hard to get pictures of Bob standing still because there's constantly things in motion, and when we decided that this award was going to be something that would be a legacy of Eastern Region, we thought of no one else but you to be the first recipient. So you kind of stole my thunder a little bit earlier, but congratulations.
Don, it is an extreme pleasure to be the first recipient of this award. And I will tell you one thing, and I've said to my kids that I've always considered myself a teacher first. Even though I've been doing this longer than I was a teacher, I always took pride in being a teacher first. And this is a golf ball. Thank you very much.
I'd like to now introduce our PSEA president, Brian Sanguinito, for the presentation of our first Eastern PSEA Presidential Legacy Award. Brian?
Thank you very much, my friends and colleagues. It's rare that somebody else does all the speaking, but it's also really kind of nice for a change. What we're doing here tonight is important, you know? We as teachers, our job is to touch lives and to change lives, and that's what you're doing every single day. It is the greatest professional honor of my life, I'm sure that I'll ever have, to be able to represent such dedicated, passionate, deeply committed child advocates, student advocates. We do everything that we can in our jobs to make a difference, and a lot of times, especially politically, we feel unheralded, unappreciated, but it's never about us. It's always about our students. And as union leaders, as association leaders, a good friend of mine once told me, it's always about the member. That's why we do this. Teaching is not what we do, it is who we are. And these 5 amazing young people, you are going to set the world on fire, just like those college kids over there who are becoming teachers are going to set the world on fire, and just like so many of us in this room have tried to do. But nobody succeeds alone. We need somebody with us. We're lucky enough to have family and friends who love us, but this family that we have, this union family, and what we are, a family, this family that we have, there's always somebody there to reach out their hand and say, I'll help you along, kid. And the winner of the Presidential Legacy Award did that for me when I was a 26-year-old nobody. And just because I'm president doesn't mean I'm somebody. It just means I was 26 years old back then, that's all it means. And for no reason whatsoever decided to show me compassion, decided to stand by me. And so when we were coming up with these awards, we knew we wanted to honor these amazing students, kids. You guys are like, we're not kids. We're still kids, believe me, we're gray. When you're gray, then you can say you're not a kid. But when we were coming up with these awards, 2 names came to mind right away. And I've been lucky enough to be mentored by both of them. First, the amazing teacher that is Bob Krelling. But then this fine gentleman, my friend and my mentor. And it's very rare that you can consider somebody both a father figure and a brother. But I do. Mr. George Treisner.
You know, the finest day of my life was when I walked into that classroom. I had many careers prior to becoming a teacher. I had a business sold out from under me in 1972, where I was the advisor to advisors and banks, insurance companies, and trust companies. The company that did the data processing also did payrolls, and the president of the company was kiting checks. So the president of the bank took over the company called Management Associates, and I came home from the Waldorf Astoria at a meeting only to find somebody sitting at my desk. And my world sort of changed quite a bit then. One of the things that I always did as a hobby, I was an electrician. And so consequently, my electrical trade and a few other things brought us through that period of time. And then one day somebody came to me and said to me, we need an electrical teacher at Bethlehem area VOTEC, and we know that you have been involved with kids. My wife and I were youth advisors for 15 years. And so consequently, and we know you have a degree, blah, blah, blah. So I showed up for my job interview as a teacher at Bethlehem area VOTEC in bibbed overalls. I was working that day. And I was hired. I was in the classroom only 4 days when I recognized the fact that we needed a union. And I got involved in the union immediately, and my fellow teacher said, well, they can fire you. I said, so what? I was making approximately $35,000 outside of teaching part-time and $14,000 as a teacher. I walked into the business manager and I said, the biggest insult in my life is this paycheck. I consider becoming a teacher the highest of all professions. And I fought for teachers right then and there. I went to Gettysburg my first year, and they said, look, they're going to fire you. I said, so what? So let them, you know. Once they understood that they couldn't do anything to me. By the way, the guy that was the director of my school was indicted for fraud and eventually won a school board seat. And you know why he won the school board seat after he retired? People recognized his name. Can you imagine this? Yeah, this is totally amazing. But teaching. Many times I've stood up at PSEA meetings and have prayed. And originally I started out to become a pastor. And I had gone to seminary and so on. And someone said, you'll reach more people for Christ in that classroom than you ever will from the pulpit. And they were right, and I did. But the joy that I had in shaping young people's lives was just phenomenal. We would have the kids to our house for picnics. I hired the kids in my job and so on, and many of them are highly successful. 4 years after one of my students graduated, who was, by the way, supposedly special needs, I don't know why he had this label, he came back to my classroom to show me his W-2. Now this was, let's see, a long time ago. A long time ago. I started teaching in 1952. Yeah, so it was 1960 when this kid came into my classroom, showed me his W-2. Mr. T, look at this. This kid made $80,000 a year after his 401k. And I have so many of those success stories with kids. A friend of mine and I had a kid who went to MIT, and they accepted our curriculum as the kid's first year at MIT. He became an electrical engineer in 3 years. And then along came different regulations. And along came, I had to throw away my curriculum because they gave me this damn canned curriculum with lecture and test for students. And you know what it did to me? It ate my guts out. I wound up in the hospital for 27 days. I was out of school for 3 months, and the director did not want me to come back to school. I said, oh no, I'm coming back. I want to make sure that my kids get what they have to get their jobs. So I went back to school. But in the meantime, PSEA became a very, very dear and wonderful organization to me. I started out on the Member Benefits Board. And when I went on the Member Benefits Board, because of my finance background, I said to the people on Member Benefits, I said, you don't know what you have here. You don't know how wonderful these organizations are. Cades Margolis, who I have been working for now for the last 18 years. They are amazing. Do you know why they continuously are endorsed for 40 years? They accept lower fees. Any member that would do exactly the same thing with Cades Margolis as they do with other vendors is missing out on the mark, because in a period of 5 years, you'd be 15% behind, simply because we have the same products but at a lower fee. And that's been Cade's Margolis history, but that's another story. Along came Brian, and we had an event, a region event, and he had his ensemble there. And I walked over and I met him and I said, Brian, I really would like you to get involved. And I got Ryan involved, and I became his mentor. And I was the mentor to quite a few people in this room. Because I firmly believe in term limits, number one. I don't believe in people running perpetually for an office. When I retired, the first thing I did was I became president of PSEA retired for the Eastern region, because their constitution was terrible. The same people served all the time, went to the things and everything, and I changed that. I went in for the idea of changing the Constitution, which I did. Once that was finished, then I left the PSEA retired. But PSEA, as an organization, is absolutely phenomenal. Members are first, absolutely first. The vetting that goes through on member benefits, as Ryan knows, is tremendous. The fact that we endorse products, do you know that we're one of the few unions in the NEA that have our own member benefits board? That we have our own member benefits? We're one of the few. Most of them just use the NEA member benefits. So consequently, you're a member of a wonderful organization, number one. Number two, those of us in this room who are teachers have achieved the highest of calling. And one of the things that I've said and been chided for at a lot of meetings is, on the day of resurrection, the first title given to the resurrected Jesus was Rabboni. It means teacher. Teacher is the highest of calling, the most wonderful thing that you can do. And for me to get an award for doing something that I've loved and loved and loved and loved, the PSEA and so on, is just phenomenal. And I almost cried when my name came up. So thank you very much, and I'm sure there are very many other people that deserve it a lot more than me. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, thank you. My God. Oh. I didn't know why I was here tonight.
All right, Ken, let's get to this. We're good. We're good. Okay.
And folks, it's come to that time. Like I said, even though we're recognizing 5 outstanding students and 2 outstanding educators, I take this as an awards banquet for all of us that work with you, because without you guys, none of this is possible. I would like to thank you all for coming to our first, but I can guarantee not the last, PSEA Eastern Region Scholarship. Almost finished. A couple announcements real quick. If the recipients and their families would stay around, we would like to get pictures right after. We will be quick. Call your boyfriends, girlfriends. 9:45, you should be there, depending on how late, how far you live. And I'm going to close tonight with just a little reading that I found here that's entitled, "If a Dog Were Your Teacher." If a dog were your teacher, there are some lessons you might learn. When a loved one comes home, always run to greet them.
Never pass up the opportunity to go for a joyride. Allow the experience of fresh air and the wind in your face to be pure ecstasy. When it's in your best interest, practice obedience. Also, let others know when they've invaded your territory. Take naps and always stretch before rising. Run, romp, and play daily. Thrive on attention and let people touch you. Avoid biting when a simple growl will do. On warm days, stop to lie on your back on the grass. On hot days, drink lots of water and lay under a shade tree. When you're happy, dance around and wag your entire body. No matter how often you're scolded, don't buy into that guilt thing and pout. Run right back out and make friends. Delight in the simple joy of a long walk. Eat with gusto and enthusiasm. Stop when you've had enough. Uh-oh. Be loyal. Sorry for that, little panic moment. Never pretend to be something you're not. And if what you want lies buried, dig until you find it. And lastly, when someone is having a bad day, be silent, sit close by, and nuzzle them gently. I wish for you all to have a safe journey home, and thank you for attending, and God bless.